Hey there, it's Anonymous Tea, where we spill the tea anonymously. Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you guys are all having an amazing day today. Sending good vibes, new positivity, new blessings, and good energy to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we are talking Too Hot to Handle Season 5, episodes 5 through 7 have dropped, and oh boy. I was expecting a little bit more. I mean, there were some more interesting things. So we left off with the cliffhanger on whether or not Christine kissed Trey on her date, and she did not. She pulled Louis for a chat to let him know, like, listen, nothing went down. All I could think about was you, X, Y, and Z, this and that, and there was nothing, she was going to do to try to rock that situation. And so then from there, we have Isaac, who decides to pull Courtney and break her heart and break things off. And she's like, listen, I thought we were rock solid. We were heading towards something. Lets her know that he kisses this new girl, Yasmin, and all of the things, and that he's going to be sharing a bed with her. And so it was just all a hot mess, right? Except for Courtney didn't know that he was going to be sharing a bed with Yasmin. She thought, even though he kissed this girl, that they still were going to be, whatever, right? Or that he was maybe taking a step back, right? But then when she saw Yasmin in the bed with Isaac, it was game over. She was done. She was disgusted. She was over it, right? And basically said that, he's continuing his player nonsense, right? And so then we have a celebration, you guys. We have a celebration of rule breaking between Christine and Louis for her not straying and getting with Trey. You guys, make it make sense. So they're hooking up in the bed. They are kissing. They're doing mutual stuff to each other and all of the things, right? And I'm like, oh, this is not going to end well, right? And so sure enough, eventually it comes out. And I was trying to figure out how Courtney was moving, because they showed in the bed one night she was in bed with Trey, and then they showed her another night she was in the bed with Dre. And I'm like, okay, are these connections, or are these just like friendship situations? Like, why are we getting zero Courtney screen time now that she is no longer involved with Isaac? Like, I was feeling a certain type of way about that. But nonetheless, when Lana finally pulls them all in, they let them know, listen, you guys have been naughty, right? And so what happens when there's a couple who breaks all the rules, right? Who spends the most money in fines, because the fines totaled, I believe it was $48,000 or something, or almost $50,000. It was 40-something thousand. And, what does she do when that happens? When you have, like, the most infractions, they send you to the private suite, right? To see if you are really here for love or if you are really here for lust, right? So they send Christine and Louis, because they're the stars, they're the main characters, who else is going to go, to the private suite. And at first I didn't recognize Christine. I thought she was a different person, because I didn't notice her hair. Her hair was completely different, because I was used to the fro. And so nonetheless, there was a lot of teasing. There was like a lot of attempts to try to tempt each other. And then the group was presented with an opportunity that said, hey, do you trust Christine and Louis? Otherwise, you can, get this money back, right? You can get this 40-something thousand back if you trust that they're not going to do anything. However, if you're wrong, the money is gone, right? You lose the money, right? That's it. And so it was kind of a divided situation where a lot of people trusted Louis, but they didn't trust Christine, because they felt that they kept saying she's like the horniest person in the villa and all of the things. So they did not trust that, this was going to go well, right? And so ultimately what happens, they all agree eventually that they're going to trust them. There was like a lot of like cliffhangers trying to like draw this out for some reason. I don't know why. But nonetheless, it ended up happening that, Christine, they took like a bath together, and she's like stripping down naked. She's like, imitating oral sex with a banana. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that's taking place. That was just wild, that was happening in these episodes, and none of it tempted Louis, but they were like both talking about like how bad they wanted to hook up and all of these things, but ultimately nothing happened. And so, well, at least that we're aware of, right? Then they find out that had they done something, that they were going to be eliminated from the show, which I feel like is a little bit premature, because there's nobody else that's really giving, right? They're the stars of the show. Like, what's going to happen if you send them home? Like, really? Like, even if they did do something, they're not going anywhere, right? And so then there is another exercise where the girls have this one night where they're like utilizing like, you know, clay and all of these things and releasing, you know, some insecurities and all of these things and just feeling more freeing and all of that. So that happens, and then they get back and tell the guys kind of what happened and what that was about. Then we have this awkward moment, you know, during the day with Hannah, because she's trying to find a connection, right? She's trying to find a connection, and she thinks, okay, since things didn't work out with Louie, I'm going to go behind somebody else's back, and do the same thing that was done to me. Make it make sense why these girls do this, right? You make a big deal when you get played by somebody, but then you go back and you do the same thing to somebody else, and you think it's okay, right? So what ends up happening is Hannah, well, first of all, before we get to that, she thinks that she could tempt Trey. She thinks that she can pull Trey. And so Trey is up here at the pool, and out of nowhere, you know, Hannah comes out, and she's like, listen, I have an experience as a dancer, and she's like trying to twirl and trying to twerk, trying to do all these weird, awkward things, and Trey is just looking at her like, what is happening? And so Hannah kept trying to drop hints that she was interested in Trey, and Trey was basically like looking at her like, what are you doing? So he was like in the confessional, he was like, what in the heck is happening? He's like, I am not interested in Hannah. What is happening? Why did I have to suffer like this? So it was just cringe. And so then Hannah, she's all like, well, I'm going to move on to Isaac now because I've always had a crush on Isaac. And I was like, really? Really? So eventually she would have tried to step in and break up the happy home between Courtney and Isaac if she had her way. I see right through the game, right? And so she's up here plotting on Isaac. She's like sneaking around, you know, rubbing, you know, sunscreen on him and having him rub sunscreen on her behind and doing all of these things, right? To get his attention, right? And so eventually she's like, well, listen, you need to be in my bed, right? You need to end things with Yasmin. And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I just brought her back. I just, you know, her and I are getting to know each other. Like, what are you talking about, right? And so, you know, she's up here giving ultimatums. And she wears, like, this weird cheetah outfit that was just, like, it's like, okay, Hannah, okay, whatever. And just really trying to tempt him, right? And so then Lana pulls everybody outside to give them the watches to where they'll get the green light whenever they can kiss somebody. In fact, if they are forming a meaningful connection, right? And so for some reason, Elise and Adam think that they're just going to like force the green light to go off, right? And they're like, well, if we just say this to each other, the green light's going to happen. And it didn't happen. And so ultimately they decided, okay, well, you know, we're going to go to bed. And it was messy because what ended up happening was I thought Isaac was going to go to bed with Yasmin, but he went in the bed to tell her that he was going to go into the bed with Hannah. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is about to be a disaster. So he does that. And then Courtney is not having it. She's like, listen, you've just showed your true colors that you're a player. And then Yasmin, she is embarrassed. She's humiliated. She's crying in the confessional because she is like, what in the heck? Everybody is gagged on their face. Like, what is happening? Like, it was just a bad look. Like, I have never seen somebody fumble so quickly as Isaac did. Like, I've never seen the fumble so quickly. You could have rode this out with Courtney and potentially won the show, but pretty much it is Luis and Christine's shows to lose, right? And so ultimately what ends up happening on the night cam is for some reason, Elise and Adam, they are frustrated that they did not get a green light immediately within moments of receiving the watch, trying to force a conversation with each other, that they decide to take it upon themselves to say, you know what, we're going to kiss ourselves because it's only $6,000, right? And what is that, right? But little did they know, right, that it was going to, you know, potentially put them in some serious jeopardy, right? Because it wasn't just a kiss, right? It wasn't just a kiss. So what happened was Lana gets them all together and lets them know, you know, this kiss lasted 12 minutes. And everybody was freaking out, like, what? And they were talking about, like, all the stuff that they could do in 12 minutes and all of these things. And they were like, you guys really just kissed for 12 minutes? And so Lana, she's, like, got the receipts on the last 5 seasons. She's like, listen, for all of my kissing rule breaks, nobody goes over basically 2 minutes, right? is nothing over for 2 minutes. So 2 minutes is either going to be $3,000 or $6,000, depending on, you know, how bad the cast is at following the rules, right? And so she was like, but I need to, you know, charge some additional infractions because this lasted 12 minutes, right? So basically she calculated it to be like, listen, this is the equivalent of 6 kisses, which 6 times 6 is $36,000 that is going to be taken from the pot. So everybody is pissed. And they're like, what in the heck? What were you guys thinking? And all of this. And so, you know, Adam and Elise can't believe it. They're completely shook that this happened, right? And so ultimately, Lana tells them, listen, you guys have 12 hours to find something meaningful of a connection or you're getting dumped from the villa. And honestly, I was fine if they got dumped because it wasn't giving. You know, I don't still see like what is happening in their connection. But nonetheless, they somehow were able to pass the test and have some type of a remote, you know, meaningful conversation enough to get a green light, like literally in the last moments, right? And so then finally we have, you know, new temptations that are going to show up, new dates, right? Because we never want to make anybody feel too comfortable, right? And so who do the new dates come into? Well, for the only 2 couples that are in the villa. The only 2 couples that exist are Louise and Christine, and Elise and Adam. So one of them was going to be going on dates, right? So Elise got it selected for a date for a guy who claims that he looks like Channing Tatum. And then Louise got a date, and he said that his type is women with big boobs and all of these things. So it's like this Asian chick who has big boobs that's taking him on a date, right? And she's just like putting it on. She's like, I don't care about the rules. And Louise is so weak. He is so weak and succumbs to temptation like no other, right? But what they do not know is that there is a twist involved with this particular date. Now, on these particular dates, there was not any thing that was mentioned as far as, you know, any rule break, free passes this go around, right? I think that was just for the first time because they felt the extremity of the situation with, like, how down, you know, Christine and everybody else is, like, to just break the rules all the time, that they possibly were going to do it, and Isaac ended up doing it. So ultimately what happened was, you know, Lana comes in and she's giving updates on the dates, right? And she's like, because I think the dates were each like 90 minutes, right? So first she comes in and she's like, okay, you have a limited amount of time that you can see from a distance on, you know, what your partner's date is, right? So Christine, she comes over, and I believe she brought Courtney over to look at the date with Louis to see kind of what was happening. She couldn't see much, right? And then the same thing happened as well with Adam to look at Elise to see what was happening over there, right? And so then they get another update that's like, okay, you know, from Lana, they're giving updates on the date, like how the dates are going with each partner and all of the things, that there's good flirty, there's good conversation, but not really revealing too much. And then she drops a bomb, then she drops a twist, and it's called, you know, to stick or twist. It was giving Love Island. But nonetheless, it was, you know, the twist was that they could interrupt the date, that Christine could interrupt Louise's date, and that you know, Adam could interrupt Elise's date. And so they had like a couple minutes to contemplate, and so if they decide to stop the date, they can send somebody else in to take over the date. And so Adam was wrestling with this, but he ultimately decided that he was going to trust his girl and trust that nothing was going to happen as far as, you know, Elise and this guy went, and she was going to trust that connection, right? And so then from there, you know, Christine, she's wrestling with this. Dre's like, put me in, coach, you know, I need a love connection and all of the things. And so ultimately Christine decides to stop the date and to send Louise back. And she felt bad at first because she was like, you know, oh, he's going to be mad at me because I don't, you know, he thinks I don't trust him and all of this. Except for she doesn't know that while this is happening, you know, Louise is up here touching the new bombshell's boobs, you guys. like literally grabbing the boobs. And I was like, what is happening? What is going on? What is this chaos? And all hell is going to break loose when Christine finds out about this. This is not going to end well, right? And so we have, you know, basically Luis coming back, and he's all like, you know, all I could think about was you. All I could talk about was you. And he omits the fact that he was touching this girl's boobs. And I'm like, bad move. You should have mentioned this. It was stupid for you to do in the first place, but you should have mentioned this, because now what is going to happen whenever she does come back to the villa is she's going to expose you. And it's going to be a bad look, right? And it's going to be hell to pay when that happens. So then we have Dre that there's zero chemistry on the date with this bombshell, right? And so that was kind of like the gist of everything, right? The gist of it all. So the preview for the next set of episodes that are going to come out next Friday, I presume, will be like, you know, the bombshells coming back to the villa, seeing, you know, what chaos and things that they can ensue. And I believe we're going to probably get an elimination of, you know, people who are just not finding connections or are not progressing with the, you know, program and all of that. And we're heading towards the end here. So that is pretty much what took place in the episode, and there's that. So we'll see what happens. I don't know why I'm still rooting for the toxicity of this Luis and Christine situation, but they're the only people that is keeping me entertained in their show, because they refuse to show Courtney now in the episode. So I have no idea what Courtney is doing. So I'm only invested in Luis and Christine, and everybody else is kind of like, you know, so there's that. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I'll talk to you guys again very soon.